Welcome to the Capital Exchange. I'm Steve Wilbur, Managing Director at Allen Capital Group.
And I'm Travis Portwood, Chief Investment Officer with Allen Capital Group.
Travis, there was a wide dispersion in the performances of the three major equity indexes in 2020. The S&P 500 was up 18%, the NASDAQ was up 45%, and then you have the Dow, measly 10%.
Only 10%.
Yeah. Great year most years, but it really lagged.
Yep.
The companies that obviously make up these indexes drive the returns. A lesser known fact is the different ways to calculate the performance of the respective indexes. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, perhaps the most common way to calculate an index is a capitalization weighted or cap weighted index, as they call it. And in a cap weighted index, the larger companies make up a larger portion of the indexes, so they drive a lot of the return. The most common indexes people will be familiar with will be the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. And in the large companies dominate those indexes, and they're the companies everyone knows. Your Apples, your Microsofts, Amazons, and Googles. The next, maybe most common, is a price-weighted index. And in a price-weighted index, the size of the company doesn't matter. It's the actual level of the company's individual stock price. The bigger the stock price, the more weight you have in the index. The most common example of this is the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And in the Dow, the biggest components are United Healthcare, Goldman Sachs, and Home Depot. Much different than what we just laid out in the S&P 500 and NASDAQ, right? And it becomes difficult to put an Amazon or a Google into like a price-weighted index because simply the level of their price. I mean, at the time of this taping, Amazon's trading around $3,200 a share. Google or Alphabet's trading at around $1,700 a share. You put those in a price-weighted index, they'll just dominate their return and nothing else will matter. The last, and maybe the one people are most unfamiliar with, is an equally weighted index. And in those indexes, every single company has the same weight and affects performance, the same way. So if you contrast that with a cap-weighted index like the S&P 500 and you made an equal-weighted S&P 500, all 505 companies would have an equal weight, and in an equal weighted index, the large companies would matter less and the small companies would matter more.
Yeah, the media uses these indexes to grab your attention, where the S&P 500 is almost, when we recorded this here, the S&P 500 is almost at 3,800.
Right.
The NASDAQ almost at 13,000. And then you have the Dow almost at 31,000. Even though the Dow isn't as broad of a measure as indexes such as the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, the media loves to flash Dow's up 1,000 points, Dow's down 1,000 points. They love to be able to catch the viewer's eyeballs because the numbers are so big.
Right, the numbers are big, and they're in the business of catching people's eyeballs, right? So they're trying to shock you. Even if a 1,000-point move up or down on a percentage basis isn't as much as maybe what's happening in the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ, they still are trying to catch your attention. But that doesn't mean we don't want you to pay attention to the indexes at all. We're just saying be aware of what the index represents, how it's calculated, and then the moves you see in the index will make much more sense if you understand those underlying factors.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Travis. This has been great. I look forward to it next week.
I look forward to it as well.
If you need help navigating these markets, our contact information is below, and we look forward to hearing from you.